Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Jules Rimet still streaming. We're coming to you after England beat Panama 2-0 in the last game of their group stage for the World Cup 2026. And we now progress as group winners. Thank goodness, because there was a point where that wasn't guaranteed. But group winners to take on the Democratic Republic of Congo in the last 32. I'm Harry. I'm joined by Ashley tonight. Ashley, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. And I must admit that I don't feel as negative as everybody else is portraying, certainly on social media, in that the group stages is all about getting to the next stage, right? And we have done that. When I look through the group, there was only, have a quick count now, three teams that won all of their games. That was Mexico, Argentina, and France.
That's interesting. There was only one team that didn't score a goal at this World Cup, and it was Panama.
Yeah, thank fuck they didn't score against us. Although they did look like they were trying their hardest to, which fair play to them. Like, there wasn't total anti-football, which we were expecting, but at the end of the day, England had too much quality, didn't they? And I think that the important thing here is that we are still probably in first gear. I think that we may have somehow managed to start the tournament in like second or third gear against Croatia, and then actually realised, well, hang on a minute, we might be pushing a little bit too hard here. Let's reset. Maybe the Ghana game was the perfect reset. A 0-0 against Ghana was probably right, just to level everybody's expectations, bring it back down to sort of ground zero, and then slowly start to build again, because it's a long tournament. Obviously, the extra round of 32 means that there's an extra round of pressure, let's say, and you want that crescendo. Is that the right word to use? You want that to be on the 19th of July. That's where you want.
I think that's right. Yeah, you want to hit your peak at the end. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm not disappointed. I'm happy with it. I'm looking at how many teams got 7 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and those are Switzerland, Brazil, Netherlands, who are now obviously already out, Spain, Colombia, and ourselves. So I think we're in a good place, and it's not all doom and gloom.
No, that's fair. I think that it's easier now that we have qualified and with 7 points, which is perfectly fine, regardless of the opponent. To say that, back to your point, that we played our best against the best team, and the Croatia game had the nature of a knockout game in that it felt like whoever wins this pretty much guarantees progression, given the other opponents in the group. No disrespect to them. If we play our best in that kind of environment, then you're right. Maybe we aren't out of second gear or haven't been against teams like Ghana and in Panama. When we come up against DR Congo, there is going to come a point where they have to attack. Maybe they could take it to a 0-0 on penalties, but are you trusting yourself to go 120 minutes against this England team and not score? They're going to have to try and go for a goal at some point, and I think that's when we can get them. I'm trying to think, just reflecting on the game a little bit, it is still fair to say it was not great in portions. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you're right there. But again, I think that when you make the changes, and it's kind of been that way from the first game. The first game was our strongest team. Maybe that's not fair, actually. First game was 9 players of the 11 was our strongest team. I still don't know whether it's Rashford or Gordon on the left.
Open question. Yeah.
But I also think that Madueke so far this tournament has been better than Saka. Now, circumstances are that Saka is probably not anywhere near full fitness, which is hampering his level of performance. But I would say that they're probably the only two positions on the team that are, whether you'd and ah about what our strongest team is now. So when you make 5 changes and you make those rotations from game 1 in the group to game 2 and then game 2 to game 3, then of course it's going to take some time to get the team to settle back into their rhythms and their patterns and find that. And like we said when we recorded pre-Panama, our best triangle on the pitch was O'Reilly, Rice and Gordon. Now, O'Reilly came back into the team against Panama and he didn't have Rice and he didn't have Gordon. He had Rashford in front of him, and then he would have had kind of Jude Bellingham, but not really. Jude was sort of playing the role that Declan Rice was playing, but playing it in a way that only Jude Bellingham can play football. So he's not Declan Rice. We don't want him to be Declan Rice, but it then means that O'Reilly's got to figure himself out. I'm kind of gutted for Quansah because I think he actually started the game relatively erratically. I don't want to say poorly. I think that look, the kid's he's a young guy, isn't he? Right, and he's getting a start at the World Cup, and maybe his positional sense for the first 10 minutes probably wasn't the strongest or the wisest, but he very much settled into that position. And then we saw it that actually in attack, it's a back three of 3 centre backs, and O'Reilly stepped up into the midfield, which, as we progress into the tournament, is only going to help us overloading the midfield, making more players available to push up, especially when you've got the likes of Jude Bellingham that are starting deeper moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, going back to Quansah, you're right about him being young, especially for and I'll come back to this as well about his position. But a guy who's only played, give or take, 100 games, 100 professional games his whole career, 16 of which were at Bristol Rovers in 2023. He's come on leaps and bounds. He's done well for a season in the Bundesliga, and he's a centre-back by trade. It's a very different job to defend the inside of the pitch versus the outside of the pitch. And you will come up against more direct, tricky wingers. And I think the set of skills you need to defend against that is very different to strikers. You're trying to anticipate movement in a way that's not really about one-on-ones in the middle of the field. He's certainly not one-on-ones anywhere near as often. And it probably just doesn't suit him being out against tricky wingers on that right-hand side. Let's hope he comes back in later in the tournament, and this isn't a tournament-ending injury. It looks like he's overextended his ankle a bit. You'd like to think he could maybe recover after a couple of weeks from that.
Yeah, it's a difficult one as well, isn't it? Because I don't think that Quansah starts any more games. I think that Djed Spence is the one that is going to lock down any potential tricky wingers, like you say, in that style when we meet them further down the tournament bracket. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But when you want to shore things up at the back in a way that only Thomas Tuchel knows, when you've got 20 minutes to play and you've got a lead, I don't think that Quansah's that bad of a player to have to bring on. I think that he's shown that as long as he doesn't have to do too much attacking, perfectly serviceable, Harry, I think.
Perfectly serviceable indeed. I don't want to focus on negatives. I thought Rashford is still trying to find his feet. I thought he was good against Croatia when he came on. But he's a player that relies on that burst actually getting past the defender, and then he's through. And if they anticipate that first reaction, that first jump, he gets tackled, and he gets tackled pretty cleanly. And that happened, I think, twice, very obviously, in this match. And it's just a bit painful to watch, I think, when a right back for a more minor nation is able to basically just cleanly dispossess England's starting left winger. It's not really what you want to see, especially from a guy who he has proven that he can be elite. It's just a bit hot and cold, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that the problem that we have is that, similar to when we speak about Peterborough United, is that being a substitute winger is one of the easiest positions to play. Similar for England, you're coming on against a player that's been run out for 60, 65 minutes, and you know that you can put in 100% for half an hour, let's say. So I think that's probably why we saw the best of Rashford, is that game against Croatia was so open because, like you mentioned earlier, that was kind of like the group winner decider, I would say, in that, well, look, Croatia finished second, so I guess it was. If we didn't beat them and we drew against them, then it's a potentially different story, right? But we did, and the game was so open that Rashford had the ability to stretch his legs, let's say. So I don't think it was a bad performance. I just think that when you are sitting with basically a back 10, it's always going to be hard for players like Rashford to make you kind of need to make the pitch big, but then the gaps are already filled, aren't they? So you can't utilize any space because there's always a player there. He's always got a mate with him. He's always got somebody that's willing to help, and that's just the way that it is. And I just hope that we don't see too much of that from Congo, because I mean the problem is that we've seen Japan do well, we've seen Paraguay do well by trying to just lock it down.
Oh Japan, we can tie this back to DR Congo, and we were kind of saying they can't defend for 120 minutes. Well, Paraguay pretty much didn't they? And it worked out for them.
Yeah, no, totally. And I just think that what it's going to need, which we saw against Panama, is it's going to need our best players to produce a moment or 2 moments or 3 moments. And then the most important thing is that this is bog standard for every football match. I'm not bringing any technical analysis, is that we don't go 1-0 down. We don't give them something to defend, because if they're a back 7 to start with, if you go 1-0 down, it becomes a back 11, and they just sit everyone behind the ball. They'll be well drilled in it, hoping that they get a chance. If you can break them down inside the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then you're probably laughing, because they know that it's now knockout football. And I think that there was probably an element of that with Panama, in that they wanted to cause an upset. Well, I think we said when we recorded the preview, didn't we, is that we knew that they couldn't qualify because of their head-to-head. But for a country like Panama, it's a massive scalp, isn't it, to even get a draw against England and put a point on the board, or no goals in the tournament, right? It would have been massive for their players, massive for their country, if they'd have managed to put the ball in the back of the net, like it was, 8 years ago in 2018, to score against England.
And in one of our first episodes of this pod, we previewed Panama. That is an old team. That is a team that many of them have been there since that 2018 game, who are at their last dance at a World Cup. Now, of course, it was a pipe dream to get out of the group, but you're absolutely right. If they could have gone home with a draw against England, that would have been massive for them, I think. And they were so close to getting a goal at the very end. It was just only marginally offside. Should we get on to DR Congo a bit? Unless there's any other players you want to recap on? I think
we should touch on Jude Bellingham. Shouldn't we? Obviously, slightly different role for him, but oh my goodness, I'm sure that we've said this for the first 2 games already, haven't we? But I'm pretty sure that's now 3. What is it? Budweiser Superior Player of the Matches that he's locked down from the sponsors. Otherwise known as a man of the match. But yeah, I mean, the fact that there was even any doubt that he was going to play. And I've seen lots of things on socials about, not that Tuchel's bullying him, but he's treating him very differently to everyone else in the squad. But clearly, whatever Tuchel is doing is really pushing the right buttons in Jude Bellingham. And we talk about Harry Kane a lot being a match winner. Step up Jude Bellingham. This man clearly is ready to put blood, sweat and tears into getting England over the line. And is he 22? Is it that he's 22 or 23?
Yeah, or he turns 23 soon. It's just incredible.
Yeah, he's 23. Yeah, literally 23 yesterday. So the fact that we've probably got another 3 Euros and another 2 World Cups of this guy playing football, at maybe by the time that he gets to the 3rd Euros, he'll probably have started to decline a little bit. But the fact that we've got him for this long is just sensational. I don't really remember Rooney as such, because I think that we can both say that we were quite young when Rooney was in the team. Like, what was it? Probably 12 years old we were.
I just about remember it. His first tournament was 2004, along with Michael Owen, and Michael Owen got injured early, and Rooney came to the fore. And I'd have been, I don't know, 10.
Well, I was 10. So yeah. I think we're the same age, aren't we, Harry? Hairline's so different, but
yeah.
But yeah, I don't, 27. I don't remember it enough, is what I'm saying. But like, you talk about Rooney, you talk about like Paul Gascoigne, you talk about Lineker, like those players that can win you games and can provide that something special, and you just want to watch them progress. And I just hope that for players like Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham and those ones that are teetering on the edge of the world-class comment, those two aren't. I think those two have locked themselves in now, right? everyone else that's in the squad that is potentially world class, well, you confirm yourself as world class if you win the World Cup, in my opinion. So I just hope that we can crescendo, like I said, at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, on Jude Bellingham, I think it's funny. There's a bit of an anecdote which I think says a lot about him. Back when he was at Dortmund, and he's probably only been 20 or 21 years old at the time. Dortmund had a left back who kept making mistakes. And Jude Bellingham, in one of the matches, just turns around to him and just says, "You're fucking shit. You are shit." He's got that just no nonsense, like holds the standard extremely high. I think it's probably quite comparable to Michael Jordan. I don't know if you ever watched The Last Dance, but somebody who just will not accept anything but the absolute best and will tell you if you are like, and he will scream at you if you're giving only 98% because it's not enough. It is not enough in his mind. Now, we've heard from certain commentators, Twitterati, whatever, that Bellingham can be considered a bit arrogant. But as you say about the upcoming tournaments, potentially 3 more Euros, 2 more World Cups, as you get older, he's actually probably going to stay exactly the same, be that same guy who demands the absolute maximum out of everybody and gives the absolute maximum. But now finally accrue the respect just because of seniority. And I think we're at a tipping point here. I think if he turns around to one of the players in the squad and says, "You are not doing good enough," probably in more colourful language, they're gonna accept it from him because he's earned his stripes already. He dug us out of knockout games at the last Euros, and maybe he'll do it again. Hey, look, he got a goal and assist against Panama. We probably don't get anything out of the game without his influence. It helps as well that he is just so technically good. For a guy of his stature to have such twinkle toes in the right moments, it is really nice. Yeah. And Rodgers did not do that well against Panama, unfortunately. Rodgers has it as well in a bit of a different way. But I think that Bellingham has that all-round package that's a bit more intangible as well. The impact he has on the rest of the team, as you call it, he drives everyone forward. Yeah, love it. And no way should he be dropped.
No, I do. I think that maybe not to be harsh on Rodgers, but you can see the star quality and the difference in that star quality, and that Rodgers has had a great season at Aston Villa and has had the England camps that he's been involved in. He's been great in those, but now that it's time to make the next step up, he's not done it just yet. But that's not to say that he won't, because he will still make an impact. He is a very good footballer, but right now it's kind of like Jude Bellingham was like, the chat was, should he start, should he not? And then the first game came around and he was just ready to go, wasn't he? Because he stepped up to the plate. I don't remember talking too much about him in the 2 friendlies before the tournament, but as soon as the tournament started, he was just locked in and ready to be Mr. England, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, DR Congo now, shall we? Perhaps surprising is the wrong word, but there is a notable number of players that any English Premier League fan will recognise here. You've got Wan-Bissaka at right back, so that's the guy that Rashford or Gordon are going to have to deal with. You've got Yoane Wissa up top, and he got, was it 2 goals against Uzbekistan? It was 2 goals against Uzbekistan, that included a penalty. Yeah. And you've got the ex-West Ham left-back, Masuaku, on the other side. There's also, I think his name is Cedric Bakambu, who I think people who play FIFA might have heard of him. I think he's a decent player. I forget exactly who he plays for. Bakambu, though, is not ex-Premier League, but Axel Tuanzebe certainly is. I think he was at Burnley last season, wasn't he? And he's played for Aston Villa before and possibly other Premier League teams as well.
Yeah. You've got... Well, he wasn't Man United, Tuanzebe wasn't Man United.
Of course, so. Yes. Yeah, you're right. You've got enough here for this to be a potential spoiler. And they did get that draw, a very creditable draw against Portugal in the group stage. They lost to Colombia 1-0 and then turned it around against Uzbekistan to get 4 points and finish third. Looks like it's going to be a 4-4-2 as well. Are you thinking there's any. Well, if you were to be concerned about anything here, what in particular might you think there's some quality that could be a bit of a risk for England?
Well, you mentioned it there, and I don't think that Wan-Bissaka ever got the flowers that he deserved at Man United. I think that he is a great defender, and
yeah, his problem I think was that he was inconsistent going forward. His man-to-man defending is excellent.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and that concerns me in a sense of we've just spoken about Rashford not really managing to get his way against the Panamanian right back. I don't think that either get a sniff against Wan-Bissaka in this game at all. I don't think I don't actually get who it is that plays. I don't think either of them have got a chance because I actually do think that he is that good of a defender. I mean, outside of the ones that you've mentioned, you said 4-4-2, Harry. I've Flash Scores have got it as a predicted lineup as a 5-3-2. So if it's a 4, I would be more confident going in if it was a 4-4-2 than a 5-3-2. But I think that if it is that 5-3-2, I would say again, I didn't really feel like Harry Kane did that dropping deep too much against Panama. Now, again, that could be the tactic and that we're trying to do. But if it is a 5, I think it will be crucially important that Harry Kane does drop deep and try to pull one of the centre backs with him. I think back to, I don't remember which game it was, but Emma Hayes did a little chalkboard special, didn't she? Where she showed that the player got pulled out by one of the attackers, which then left the space for somebody else to run into. I think that dependent on what midfield 3 we go with, Harry Kane dropping into the middle of the pitch, bringing a defender with him and leaving the space for Rodgers, for Bellingham, for even somebody like Rice to drive through and carry the ball through will be crucially important, but also not leaving ourselves overexposed on the break. So, yeah, Wissa is a threat. He's not had a fantastic season at Newcastle, has he? But
no.
He's 3 goals in the tournament now already, and that is not anything to be sniffed at. Well, 2 of them are against Uzbekistan. We jokingly have said that Uzbekistan have basically got Kusan on them as their singular good player, but scoring against Brazil is not Brazil. Sorry, Portugal is not to be sniffed at, right? So there's a chance,
or at least getting a point. I think it was it 0-0 against Portugal. I think, but yes, exactly, getting a.
No, I'm pretty sure that he did score. Yeah. 1-0.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Of course, because how else would he have got a third goal given it was 1-0 against Colombia? Yes.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So he's dangerous and a threat, and it's obnoxious of me, right? I'm going to be honest. I don't know anyone else on the pitch. A few of those that you mentioned that have played in the Prem, I've got no idea who they are. But that's what the World Cup's all about, right? Is you get these surprise players that bring something that you know nothing about them. I've read I think it was Henry Winter basically said that there are analysts and coaches literally working through the night watching Congo's games because they just simply didn't have a clue how they were going to play. They couldn't commit to sending them out to America because it could have been any one of potentially 9 teams that we could have played, depending on finishing first or second alone. If we'd have finished third, it adds another 7 teams potentially to who we could have played. So lots of hard work will have gone into this. I just hope that they don't play the Paraguay and Japan route. But equally, I think about Germany and I think about Brazil. And if England are going to win the World Cup, I don't think that I'm too concerned by Brazil. But, yeah, difficult. We've got to get the first goal. Simple as that. Get the first goal, and I think that we win comfortably.
I was just thinking that, yeah. And look, Germany were undone by being too methodical, not taking enough risks, the never-ending passing, with the exception of then, once it got to Musiala and Sane, just making bad dribbling decisions again and again, or at least dribbling decisions that didn't then connect with whoever the striker was. I think that we have got a bit more about us in terms of chemistry among our players, and we have better fullback play than the Germans did.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that Paraguay and DR Congo are going to be the same exact level. Every team's going to have a different element to it. But look, it's fair to say it would be an absolute disaster if we went out here in the last 32. I know Germany and the Netherlands have already done it, but it would be really just shocking to the point where I don't think any of us would be ready for that conversation. I mean, it was bad enough, for example, the last real crash out of a tournament we had was the World Cup in 2014, the group stages. I think this would be as bad as that. And you'd almost then reflect on the Tuchel golden knockout record and whether he actually is the man to leading them in the future, which seems crazy because you talk about it in those terms and how severe those terms are. We could easily be 2-0 up in the first 10 minutes of this game, and suddenly there was almost no point discussing it pessimistically. And that this is maybe a stepping stone. But that's the thing, the players cannot treat this as simply the prequel to the Mexico game. This is very, very important in its own right. Just one more comment as well, raising it from what you mentioned about the Henry Winters point, does probably become way harder for any given camp to scout potential opponents when you're exactly right. Could have been 9 different teams that we could have played in this game. How can you, as the England backroom staff, prep for that? Because normally when it's the top 2 go through, you know whether you're playing the winner of one group or the second in another, you can narrow it down, give or take, to 3 or 4 teams at most. And here it was just almost impossible to do the same.
Yeah, no, but look, I still think that we've said this before, haven't we? And I think that maybe it's time to rein back in the arrogance with the predictions. Yeah. But England should have enough to beat Congo. And look, we mentioned Gabi Zakuani, didn't we, on the previous pod? I read that his responsibility and role within the DR Congo setup is to convince players to play for DR Congo. So all of those names that you listed earlier are probably as a result of him convincing them to play for DR Congo, right? So in that sense, he's done a fantastic job.
For any floating viewers of Jules Rimet still streaming, wondering why we're bringing up a man called Gabi Zakuani, he used to play for Peterborough United, the team that we both support. In fact, you can see behind Ashley's head a nice little posh framed picture of something. As a program, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. From the Reading game. Nice. So I think it's Ben Woods on there, but
excellent. Maybe he'll play for England one day.
Well, I was going to say probably no chance, but you know, how many we did we discuss on this pod, or was that on a posh pod where how many left back injuries would we need for Harrison Burrows to end up
it was on this
left back? How many midfield injuries would there need to be for Ben Woods to end up? I think that you're in probably 3 figures. There would have to be like some purge style centre midfielder. Like Cull, where there's just the top 250 midfielders are probably taken out. Well, that's not a slight on Bedwards, but we digress.
We digress indeed.
Are we gonna do predictions, Harry, or have you got anything else that you want to talk about?
One more comment. This game is happening in the Atlanta Stadium in Georgia, which I think most of the season round is called the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Have you ever seen it, Ashley? Do you know anything about this stadium?
I'm sure you're going to give me a fact.
I wouldn't call it a fact. I'd call it just a feature. It has probably the coolest retractable roof in any stadium in the world. I'm willing to go with that. It is the Mercedes logo, but rather than split into the 3 prongs, it's split into 6 segments that open and close at an angle. So it almost shuts like a shutter on a camera where it twists and closes.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And at the last moment, the whole Mercedes logo comes together, and then it can shutter open as well. I don't know what the weather's set to be like down in Georgia. I might just look it up, and maybe you can fill with your prediction in a moment.
Will it matter? Will it matter if you're saying it's got a roof? Will it not be roof closed and aircon on?
I don't know what their policy's been. Maybe you're right. Maybe it doesn't matter what the weather is and they're going to shut it regardless.
So the answer to your question whilst you look at this is that I think that England are going to win an uncomfortable 2-1. I'm going to go with. I think that we will get 2 goals up, but we will then concede probably through a sloppy mistake at the back. Probably one of the centre-backs switching off very briefly and Congo taking the ball and pinching the ball off of us. And look, do you know what? It's weird, isn't it? Because sometimes you watch pundits talk and you think, what on earth are they talking about? But I've been absolutely fascinated by Joe Hart's punditry and comments on the football, and that it's just getting past goalkeepers like 0.1 seconds faster. Where they would normally get their hand to it, it's just zipping past their hand a little bit more. And I think that it will probably be one of those strikes where the player runs through a goal, he hits it early, it moves a little bit too fast for Pickford, and it's in the back of the net. And then we may see, you remember that 15-minute period against Croatia in the second half where they were very much on top, but didn't manage to score? I think that we'll probably see that for probably the last 10 minutes of the game and into added time. And let's say there's going to be at least 8 minutes. And I should probably tell you first goal scorer as well. I'm going to go Mark Gahey from the corner. I think that if Rice plays, I think that we've seen good corners against Croatia. We've then seen crap corners against Ghana and Panama. I think that we'll be back to the good corners against DR Congo, and we will score at least 1, and Gahey will be the first goal scorer for that.
Nice. Well, in the, I suspect, fully closed roof in 34-degree heat tomorrow, and it's a noon kickoff, I think. So, they're going to want that closed. The temperature's only going to rise as the game goes on, which, hey, look, if it's aircon, no problem at all. Happy days. I am going to go with, I haven't actually thought in advance what I'm going with as my score. You know what? I'm going to go 3-1. Again, this is not going to be the smoothest sailing ride, and it could even be that we concede first, or perhaps we go 1-0 up and we get pegged back. But I think we will get there. I think we'll get there in 90 minutes. And just to keep it fresh, because I've already predicted Kane wants to score first, I'm going to go with Elliot Anderson first with an outside of the box strike. He's already tried it a couple of times this tournament, and hopefully he can get one past with the zippier ball past the DR Congo keeper. All right. Are we there?
I think we are. Yep.
Yeah. Nice and easy.
Who is it that we're meant to be watching now? Is it France-Sweden? Is that the game?
Yeah, we're 7 minutes into France-Sweden. So that's a good one. Hey, could we see the third spoiler? I mean, seriously, if another one drops, you're starting to think about the route to the final. Is we've got to get past Brazil and Argentina first, but
I think that Brazil have shown that they're there to be beaten. I think that Argentina. The problem is with Argentina is that it's very much the Messi show, right? And this isn't. Messi can make it his own show and could make it his own show, but I think that if you can lock down, this is where what I would love is. We're meant to be finishing, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because I can.
Yeah.
This is where I think that would that be the semi-final? Argentina, is that what we're saying?
Yes, I think Brazil would be the quarter.
I would hope that Reece James would be back by the semi-final, which would mean that we could then move Djed Spence over to the left-hand side. And then we could use Djed Spence to, what is it that he tweet, like Instagram posts? Is it like the Djed Spence penitentiary or something? We can watch Djed Spence lock up Lionel Messi in a World Cup semi-final. Because the guy's the best player in the world and has been for 20 years, let's say. But there's one thing that you can do it with, and that's recovery pace. And I think that having Djed Spence up against Messi would be a fascinating head-to-head battle.
It would. You know what? I will now give you a factoid because I know you love them. This is courtesy of Opta. I saw
much more than quizzes, Harry.
Yeah, sure. Well, do you want to quiz you on it? No, I'll just tell you. Of the 618 registered midfielders at this tournament, and they've registered Messi as a midfielder rather than a striker or a forward, average distance per 90, Lionel Messi is last, despite having 6 goals, which is the most of the tournament. Very, very efficient in his ambling around the pitch and then converting it into goals as and when he feels like it, bending the game of football to his will.
Yeah, right place, right time. And he's done that for many a year, hasn't he? And just has that ability to stick the ball to his foot. And have England actually played Argentina like in any World Cups where Messi's been involved?
I don't think so. I think we last played Argentina in 2002. I think it's been absolutely ages. I may have a clanger that I've just said there, and there's actually one since then. But I don't think we've played Argentina in a long, long time.
I think it would be fascinating. The guy's going to probably retire after this World Cup. I think it would be absolutely fascinating to see him, even not at the peak of his powers, but just to play against that. And look, let's say that England do go and win. I think that it builds and it adds that resilience that, look, we've done it against the best player. Now let's go and do it against one of the best teams in potentially France or Spain, right?
Indeed. But we're not getting arrogant. We're not getting ahead of ourselves by talking about the semi-final. We are giving DR Congo the respect they deserve and hoping that we get through this match and can then continue this podcast. Thank you all for listening. And if you haven't subscribed, please help us out. It helps the channel grow. We're still a fledgling young podcast. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully we've got a few more episodes of this tournament yet. And also, along with subscribing, please please comment. Let us know what you think the score is going to be. Any other thoughts on the Panama game? We'd love to hear it. And with that, hey, look, Ashley, it's been 60 years of hurt. Jules Rimet still streaming.
Jules Rimet still streaming.